Hi Canucks and friends, welcome to the Chronicle of New Eden. I'm Dan Nod, co-CEO of Story in Advance, an alliance in Wormhole. I'm also the co-host of the Canuck Cap Series Chronicles. It's a weekly show about Aves news every Tuesday at 19:30 Eastern Time Zone. This week gonna be about how the Jovian Empire think through their politic and culture. The first thing that got my attention is the absence of religion. Usually in the other races, the title of the chapter is Politic, Cultures, and Religion. I wonder if the Jovian have any kind of beliefs. Does it have any link with their logo? And why their logo is so ugly? That's another debate. So, are you ready to dive into this episode with me? Let's start it! Politics and Culture. The Jovian Directorate and Corporations. Why the Jove Empire's third incarnation appears to be highly decentralized. It retains a recognizable form of government in the shape of the Jovian Directorate, more of a coordinating and consultative body than a government per se. The Directorate is more analogous to the Calgary State Chief Executive Panel than any more traditional governmental form. Certainly, it is an interesting fact that the Third Empire organized itself according to a corporatist philosophy as a means to ease the tensions between its factions while directing expertise in the most efficient manner. It is even possible that the Jovian Directorate's liking for a corporation form of governance led to capsule technology being introduced to the core empires via the Calgary Issuecon Corporation. Operating alongside the Jovian Directorate are a number of corporations involved in certain necessary functions or specialized activities. The Jove Navy is organized as a small but enormously potential striking force. Primarily use large numbers of very advanced cruisers, supplemented by frigate wings, and a relatively small number of battleships that are intended as command and control vessels rather than ships of the line. That being said, any Jovian battleship is capable of crushing an entire squadron of non-Jovian battleships single-handedly. Backing up the Jovian fighting ships are the motherships, the power of which is well known after the bright of bloody battle of Vac, Actea. The Jovian corporations most well known to non-Jove are those with a presence throughout the core empires. These include the well-regarded leading-edge cloning corporation Genolution, the biotechnology equipment supplier Extensive, and the advanced electronics manufacturer Impro. While it has no permanent presence in the empires, the Jovian finance and commodities house Prosper is known to have invested in numerous non-Jovian corporations, though always selectively and with great care to not interfere in their operations. Other Jovian corporations carry out little commerces in the core empire and are rather geared toward general or specific functions with the Third Empire. The Shapeset Corporation is essentially the dedicated manufacturing arm of the Jove, producing ships and equipment solely for use by the Jove themselves. Highly specialized entities including the Material Institute, which explored practical applications for hyper-advanced Jovian science. And the rather bizarre Academy of Aggressive Behavior, which is dedicated to training cadres of pilots and soldiers to overcome the apathetic and pacifist tendencies of the modern Jove. The Jovian disease. To understand modern Jove culture, it is necessary to understand the Jovian disease. Nothing else has had as great an impact on the shape and nature of Jovian society in the Third Empire. As has been described, the Jovian disease emerged in its current form out of the shrouded days, and has even been cited as a possible reason for the collapse of the Second Empire before that. The precise mechanism and action of the disease is still not understood by the Jove, but they are well aware that it is genetic in nature and has the potential to strike them down at any time. Indeed, that a Jove will finally succumb to the Jovian disease is no mere potential fate. It is inevitable and certain that a Jove who lives long enough will develop the condition and die as a result of its destructive psychological effects. It is quite possible, indeed likely, that a precursor to the Jovian disease was present in some form during the Second Empire. The genetic manipulation of the Jovian race had already reached dangerous heights when the Second Empire was young, and by its end, the modifiers had promoted many more experiments and alterations. Soon after emerging from the shrouded days, the Jove began to see cases of the Jovian disease manifest themselves. The first signs of something very wrong were seen in the Jovian reproductive facilities. One of the two main forms of the Jovian disease strikes at developing Jove in the so-called fetus tubes that serve as the race's artificial wombs. This form is invariably and swiftly fatal. Even though this is the statistically rarer of the two forms, the impact on Jovian reproduction was noted really quickly. Soon after the disturbing evidence of a fatal genetic flaw or disease manifesting itself in the fetus tubes arrived signs of the second form of the Jovian disease. In this variant, the disease first presents itself as a psychological condition that initially produces mild apathy, loss of appetite, and poor mental focus. As the condition progresses, it can develop into strong depression, mild dementia, or in rare cases, a sort of obsessive-compulsive condition. These symptoms are overtaken by a big phase where extreme psychological disorders manifest, running through hyperparanoia, sociopathy, and psychopathy. When the peak phase is exhausted, a final collapse into a kind of psychological paralysis ensues. As all will to eat and drink disappears, death is typically by dehydration after falling into a coma. The age at which the disease first presents itself and the pace of its progress vary considerably from individual to individual. The link with genetic manipulation in the past is considered established, although the causation is a mystery. Radical members of the modifiers factions seem particularly prone to early onset, and this had led to theorizing that the act of genetic tampering can accelerate the disease. Given that Jovian reproduction involves considerable genetic manipulation in order to produce viable fetuses, a necessity due to the accumulated genetic damage of eons, and given the existence of a prenatal form of the disease, some suspect that the condition is triggered by certain combinations of genetic alteration. Much research focuses on the genetic tampering trigger, together with all manner of experimentation with gene slicing of material from other races. It has so far not been shown that slicing non-Jovian material into a Jove's genetic makeup has a statistically significant effect on the progress of the disease. In itself, this does at least tend to confirm suspicions that the disease is fundamentally bound up with the activation and combination of Jove's specific genetic sequences. The Jovian attitude to the search for a cure is almost that of a crusaders on a holy mission. The concept of religion is meaningless when applied to the Jove, but it is fair to say that their most powerful philosophical beliefs are intimately connected with the quest for a cure. The typical Jove will stop at almost nothing to chase down a possible cure. The most driven Jove will literally subordinate all ethics to this goal. It would be unwise in the extreme to get in the way of a Jovian who is convinced she is on the path to a cure for her people's nemesis. That was interesting. Do you think the Jove made contact with other empires in the hope to find a little genius who would be able to help them with the Jovian disease? I feel that's the only weakness of the Jove, and with their attitude with the other faction, I feel that can be the only reason to take contact with them. Would you like to have an entire episode about the disease? The history, the symptom, and what they try as a cure. By the way, guys, thanks for your speculation about what we're gonna find in the fulcrum. I've got two that I want to share with you. The first one is from Richard. You will find it nice to find a Jovian frigate in it. The other one is from Miley. It thinks that we're gonna find the rest of the Jovian logo, cause damn it, the logo cannot be complete and look like that. Thanks guys for your speculation, and thanks for listening week after week. See you next week, Canucks and friends!